folks, I'm here with Heath Bakken. This is going to be the first episode of our Stewartville Wrestling podcast. Our goal is to kind of once a week, hopefully, or in between duels, give you a little refresher on some information, not only with the high school program, things that are going on there, but also with the program in general, whether that generates down to youth or recently graduated athletes, as well as some historical stuff. I'm Cody Buchanan, 2011 alumni of Stewartville High School, as well as the wrestling program. And I'm joined by Heath Bakken, head coach. We decided that for the first episode, we should probably have the worst guest so that we can only go up from here. But we have Heath here. Heath, how are things going, man?
Going pretty good. How about yourself?
We can't wrestle right now. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm a club coach. So my time is spent watching Heath's guys wrestle currently, as well as my other club athletes. But obviously, it's a goofy year, Heath. You got a lot of COVID protocols and things that maybe aren't so fun to deal with as far as administratively. But you're 2 weeks in, like three events, I think, 3 or 4 events. How are things going with the COVID stuff?
Oh, it's been a challenge so far. Obviously, it's different than anything that any of us have had to deal with before, but we're getting through it. The guys are doing a great job. They're the ones that, they have just as much brunt probably as myself, as far as having to change on a dime. Um, you know, that's the thing is things change rapidly and on short notice, and they've handled it all well. Um, so I'm proud of their efforts with that. And like you say, I think in the long run, we'll all be better for it. So,
Yeah, and I mean a lot of stuff, at least for wrestling from an outsider's perspective, a lot of it seems like it's things that we were doing already that we're highlighting, right? A lot of the safety protocols, a lot of the sanitation protocols that they're now adding on. It's a ramped up version of stuff we were already doing. So I think that's kind of nice as far as wrestling goes. This past week you had Casson, you had Lake City. Talk about it. What'd you learn from them? Where are you going from here? What's going on in the high school room, Heath?
well, like you said, we had Casson on Tuesday night. It was supposed to be on Triangular. Unfortunately, due to unrelated issues, Pine Island, we had to reschedule. So we just with a duel with Casson. Obviously, they're one of the top programs in the state, a level that we're trying to get to and working our way to. So, it's one of them things you're trying to gauge where your guys are at. Um, Unfortunately, we kind of came out on the short end of the stick on that duel, but there was some positives there. Definitely some things that I think we could build on moving forward. Um, we had a couple guys that had some good moments in there. John Loris was able to get a fall. Blake Carr with a decision, but we had some young guys that were in there battling for a while. Reed Wren was in a match for a while. Um, just things like that give you some optimism to build off of. We got against a team like that. You got to want to compete against the best. And that's something that we're working on, and we got to just keep getting better at. So all we can do after that is just take the information and move forward. So that's kind of where we were at with that duel.
And I'm gonna guess it's the same thing for Lake City.
Yeah, Lake City. I think I'd be a liar if I said that we all didn't leave with a little bit of a bad taste in our mouth. I think we all felt that duel could have been a little bit closer. Um, Unfortunately, we gave up a few too many bonus points. We had that discussion in practice yesterday that, you take those bonus points matches that we had and you turn them to decisions or major decisions, and now that's a whole different dual meet. So it's just getting guys to, and we're still early in the year too, right? We're starting out of our 14 weights. Like 7 of them guys are ninth grade or less. I mean, so that is a young team. So we just got to keep getting them guys mat time and get them better. I mean, we have confidence in the guys that we got in the lineup right now. We just got to keep making adjustments. And I tell you what, they came back yesterday and they worked out hard and strong, and that's the things that are keeping us optimistic right now, that we're on the verge of, working back to where we want to be.
Yeah, and I think that again, part of the whole purpose of this podcast, other than Heath and I having to use technology, I think, is that people want to hear this kind of stuff, right? Whether you're driving to a duel or a try, or whether you're talking with your son or daughter or athlete, right? They want to, and I get this question a lot, whether I'm at a establishment in Stewartville, or I'm at a duel, or I'm at an event. One of the first things they ask, well, how the Tigers looking this year? Well, man, I ain't been in the room since, probably last winter. And then on top of that, we'll have you talk to Heath, right? Because you kind of hide out down in Racine, down in your house. You don't really come out a whole lot. So I get the job of Heath whisperer, where everybody's got to ask me what Heath's thinking. So I think this is really good to hear some of your insight on it, and get you out in front of people a little more. Hopefully, this doesn't scare anybody else off. We can get a few more coaches out of your stable to come on and talk about how things are going with them. But overall, and the reason I bring all that up is because we've had this conversation already this week, right? The lineup's young. That's there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The lineup's young. You watch it up and down. I've watched every try or duel so far, and yeah, they're young and they're a little bit, out of their weight range. But the only way to figure that out is to work them into that weight range, right? And as opposed to other years, and this is no disrespect to any other years, but as opposed to other years, you didn't come out with so much, and the words that I used were doom and gloom out of them. And it's really easy to come out of those duels with tough programs like Cass and Lake City, just feeling down, right? Only seeing the losses, only seeing the bad things that happened. But I think that there were a lot more things that you could pick and piece out, as building blocks, hopefully, for something later down the line in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at it as coaches, going back through, looking at the videos and stuff, and you were seeing that the things that we're showing, the kids are working towards that, right? And they're trying to make an adjustment. It's again, it's a young team. Every time they step on the mat, we're hoping that they learn something about themselves, and about what we're trying to do. And then also, I think I think the one thing with the whole COVID thing, right, is it's maybe made people realize how much this sport meant to them, and where we might have took it for granted before, and now, and again, and especially even the current landscape, like, we don't know any given week, you might go to next week, we might not get to compete, whether it's somebody else or our own program, right? And so I think it's just guys trying to maximize the time that they get on the mat. And I think that's the same thing that we're seeing in practice. I mean, the practices that we've been having, the energy has been good, kind of like you said, as far as even coming off matches, like, yeah, we're disappointed that we didn't get what we want, but we're getting right back to the drawing board, and we're getting back after it, and guys are asking questions. So, and like you say, the other thing is we got a really good staff this year to work around the guys, and COVID is kind of, in some regards, made some things that maybe you thought about doing, you're doing. We've, because of COVID, having to run 2 separate rooms, which has allowed us to focus more on some of our young guys too, and we're seeing a lot of positive development down there, as far as our junior high guys. And then, like we said, just it's funny, right? You talked about people wanting to know about Stewartville wrestling, and it's like, even the live stream stuff, which has been forced because of COVID, and people not, like, my phone is getting text all the time. Lake City was a perfect example. Like, what was the final duel score? Because they didn't happen to show the score in the duel. But we get all these alumni and people that have been around the program that they're watching. And so I think it's also opened some doors that are positive. And I think, like you say, just a simple thing like the live stream and going forward for alumni is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's hard to stay connected when you're distant, when you're gone, all of those things. I mean, and I'll say this as nicely as possible, it sucks that it took us this long for everybody to put this together as far as live streaming all high school events. But yeah, it's awesome. I sit in my bedroom and watch, 3-4 tries a night. I know it's Thursday, it's Saturday, it's Friday. I know I'm gonna have 1 or 2 different tries to watch, so that's kind of nice. Out of it, like you said, the sport is gonna pull things away from COVID that are going to be useful with or without a pandemic going on. Who do you guys got this week? Where are you going? What's happening?
So Friday the 29th, we'll be traveling to Goodhue, going up and taking on the Wildcats there. Again, I think that's a duel that we're looking at that we expect to be in and be competitive. We're hoping we might be making some adjustments here, at least if not this week, the week after. We're going to be making some tweaks in our lineup a little bit now that guys are getting into shape and getting where they want to be. So we'll be going to Goodhue Friday night, and then Saturday the 30th, we'll actually host our first home event of the year. We'll have Rochester John Marshall and Rochester Century in town, so we're looking forward to getting a home event in.
Yeah, anybody got a spare ticket? Let me know. They're gonna make me watch this from my bedroom, from where we're filming this. I'm gonna have to watch Schmitz and JM and all those guys, and Joel and Century, and you and Stewartville, and I'm gonna have to watch you guys on my TV. It's Man, I'm not with it. Somebody find it out, figure it out, Stewartville. Let me in. Putting it out there. So you got a duel on Friday, you got a try on Saturday, and then the season just kind of keeps ticking along, right? It's nothing but duels and tries. So you're not peaking for a certain tournament. You don't have the Christmas tournament to look forward to. You don't have the Clash to look forward to, or I don't know what you guys go to in the later stages of the year, right? There's no Swallow duels. There's no big culminating event where you're like, hey, mark it down. We need to be at our best here. So I'm sure that's kind of throwing things along. You obviously, if you can't speak on it, you can't. But state tournament, are we getting closer? Are you hearing any rumblings?
I don't think we're going to know. I think the state high school league meets. I believe it's the first week of February. I think that we'll probably know some more answers there. I think they really want it to happen, but I think we also have to understand that if it does happen, it's going to drastically look different. I think if it does happen, I think you're going to be, single A in one gym, double A in somebody else's gym, and triple A somewhere else. And it might be spread out, who knows how.
Weight
But
classes or all? They
yeah,
could do all sorts of different options there.
yeah. Again, it, I'm hopeful that we'll get a state tournament, but you know, at this point, I'm just happy that we're wrestling. And like you said, yeah, there's not a big event that you're training for, but at this point, we're just training. We're just trying to just keep going and get on the mat. We're just trying to take advantage of every time that we're in the room, that we're getting better.
And again, I think another nice thing about hearing how you are taking on the season and stuff, it also can alleviate a lot of questions in communication, whether that's with parents or fans or whoever, right? Knowing how you look onto this season puts context into choices and decisions made, whether it's in how they're training or how they're competing, right? If and again, let's speak hypothetically. Let's say the Christmas tournament's next week, and your kid's coming home from practice going, "Oh, it's really not so bad this week," right? Because you're probably toning things down. Well, you could give them that information here. Well, we're toning things a little bit back because we got Christmas, tournament coming up. Whereas on the flip side, the way that you make choices, whether it's in a dual meet with weight classes or choosing what you get on the flip, like we know it's coming from a side of we never know when we're going to wrestle or not, and we're going to put the best guys out there and wrestle the best we can. Is that what I'm gathering? Am I off?
No, I think you're right. Like you said, yeah, we're still, don't get me wrong, we're still trying to win the duel. We're looking at lineups, we're looking at coin flips and all of that. Competition is still competition at the end of the day. But on the same vein, we're also looking at it is at this point, everything is training until we get to whatever the end goal is, whether that's a section tournament or whether that's a state tournament. We're going to train all the way until whichever one of them it is. If it's, if we get a state tournament, then we're going to basically, everything is going to be training until we get to sections. And if we only get a section tournament, everything's going to be training until, whatever we need, whatever time we designate as our time to try to peak for that event. And again, some of that is still up in the air too. So at this point, our focus is just everything is training. You know, and I don't bat an eye at saying this. We lifted Tuesday morning before we went to our duel on Tuesday night. Like, we're not. We
More
don't have
game
time.
day lifting.
We don't have. You don't have time. You don't have time to take a day off right now.
Well, and again, and I didn't mean to make it sound like you guys don't take competition seriously, but the focus is training, right? And I think in past years, and as somebody who's gone through some of the state high school league classes and things on transformative coaching, all of it's super useful. But everything they tell us is process over product, right? And it's about the how, not the what, and all of those types of things. This year, I think, as of all of them, has really forced coaches to kind of think about that, right? How do you keep your average 138-pound varsity starter out there not knowing there's a state tournament, right? But normally you're training your guys, your team, your athlete, whether they're male or female, whoever, you're training them for the end goal. Hey, we're trying to be a state champ, or we're trying to be a section champ, or you have these product goals, right, for the end of the year, whereas that's all a question mark right now. So I think, again, some pros and cons with the COVID thing. We could probably move on from some of the high school stuff, but it's good to hear that things are going well. Like you said, you got a meet on Friday and another on Saturday. So we'll probably put this out sometime throughout the week so that people can kind of tune into those when they have to travel all the way up to Goodhue come Friday. As far as post-grad, some alumni still competing. I know Brody's back. He told me he's back at NMU. He made it sound like there's a possibility for an event late February-ish. As far as domestic, they're going to do a dual thing, I think, Greco-wise. But have you heard anything more on him at all?
No, I got to just chat with him a little bit. He was actually came to watch his stepbrother Jacob Thomason at the Triton duel. So I got to just chat with him briefly there. Again, he was, like you said, getting ready, geared up to head back, and that duel was kind of the first big thing on the radar for them, from what I gathered. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that kind of the end of February, and then it's junior trials or U23 trials, whatever direction he decides to go. Come springtime for him. And looking at the results last night, I didn't see Jamie wasn't in the lineup for Upper Iowa, but they took on. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. They wrestled somebody last night, but he wasn't quite in the lineup. I know he's kind of neck and neck with some guys at 74 down there. As he's just getting off some COVID protocols himself. So hopefully we'll see him in the lineup soon. Anybody else we're missing as far as guys still competing?
Not that I know of. I mean, I know, I think Eric Toohey's still kind of hanging around there, but a lot of that is still in limbo there as far as what's going to happen with Greco. And he's still working on some schooling stuff as well. So,
yeah, he's down coaching, right?
What's that?
I heard he's coaching down on lacrosse.
Okay, maybe so.
That's just what I had read, that he was kind of coaching, training a little bit of both while he's going to residency and looking attractive and being 6'4" and having a chiseled jawline. But that's what I've heard on Eric, is that he's down there coaching and getting ready. Obviously his weight class qualified for the Olympics, but he's probably about 3-4 on the ladder. So trials are kind of important. Hopefully he can get that kind of time off and get some time to train prior to that, going into trials. Sounds like youth is getting started up. That's what you're kind of telling me before air. Things are they're ramping it up. It's not quite set in stone, but some communications being laid out, whether that's on Facebook or through parents and things. But it sounds like that's getting up and running. Am I on the right page there?
Yep, I know they did Thursday night. They did a workout while we were gone. Obviously, again, with the whole COVID thing, has added challenges to everything. Our day gets a little bit later, so as far as high school practice is getting later in the night. So we're trying to make some adjustments so that them guys can get in and practice. There'll probably be some nights that they're going to practice off of the high school site, just so that they can get reasonable times in for the guys. But I know they, like I say, they had a workout the other night. I think they're getting geared up for, a couple nights this coming week. I know they were still finalizing that last I talked to Coach Rager the other day. But yeah, if people need information, look on the Facebook, whatever, or you can, get in contact with myself, and I can point you in the right direction. But
yeah, I mean, just from perusing the internet, you got athletes out competing. They're out in tournaments. Most of them out of state. Today was the first Mid USA qualifier with Shakopee up in the Twin Cities. So Mid USA qualifiers are up and rolling. Youth parents, in case you're listening, those are going on. I don't know how many they have scheduled, but I know they got the building kind of secured up there, and they got some teams looking at volunteering and holding tournaments up there. So keep an eye on the Guillotine Open events calendar, or whatever they call it, youth parents, for tournament information with that. Just going to kind of wrap things up. Like I said, we don't want this to be super long. In fact, I'm hoping this isn't video for the rest of its existence. I kind of wanted to do something more audio, but he thought it might be easier if he could just tap into Zoom and not have to think so much as a older, out of touch with technology gentleman. But eventually, we're hoping to have more either coaches or athletes, maybe some alumni, some parents, some fans come in, talk about what's going on with the program, what they're seeing, what we're excited about. One final piece that I kind of wanted to tie into every episode is kind of a historical reference. I think it's something that the Stewartville, one of the awesome things the Stewartville Wrestling Club does is they put together the book, right? And that book is sacred in the Stewartville wrestling community, right? Like everybody's got to go pick themselves up a book, and it's got advertisements and all. It's one of the really, really awesome things that is very Stewartville centric about the wrestling program, especially. But outside of that, some of the historical stuff kind of gets lost if we don't pass it on, at least via word of mouth, right? And Heath and I have been kind of talking about how we lose some alumni here and there. And lose isn't the right word, probably. They relocate, right? Not everybody wants to live in Southeast Minnesota, and that's completely understandable. But as we want to keep passing on some historical things, at least from the past, especially for our current athletes, because I think our current athletes, you can take a lot of pride about wearing the S on your chest, right? Or having the Tigers across it. And I think that if we can give them a quick little blurb about why they should have so much pride in that, I think that's useful too. Kind of for our historical reference today, we just wanted to take a brief moment and show a little respect to Dave Erickson, who passed away recently here from Stewartville. Not only was he a coach with the Stewartville wrestling program, but he was incredibly involved in the community. As far as me personally, I got to know Dave through him substitute teaching. I mean, you can't find somebody who went to Stewartville High School for the last probably 10 15 years that he subbed that wouldn't know exactly who you're talking about when you talk about Mr. Erickson. So and obviously learning further about his life now, about how much he had to do with the coaching and with wrestling, it makes more sense because we had a lot of conversations about wrestling instead of doing schoolwork some days, because that's just how Dave rolled, and we appreciated him a lot as students. I know, Heath, I wanted to give you the floor to say something, just again out of respect to him.
Well, first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the entire Erickson family, going through that difficult time. People may or may not know Dave was inducted into the Section 1 Hall of Fame last spring. I was able to make that event, and it was an honor to see him there, and he was able to get up and talk. I same as you. I had Dave as a teacher. He kind of was coming in coaching a little bit towards the tail end of my high school career, more as a junior high. I didn't have him as a direct coach. And then actually, when I came back to coaching, I was taking over for Dave as he was stepping aside. But every year, I love the guy. Every year, he always brought fruit in for our guys. He would buy extra fruit from the FFA, and he always made sure he bought a box and brought it to the wrestlers. And I mean, that went on for years. I mean, all the years that I've managed to be with the program, that was a staple that you were going to get from Dave every year, that you were going to get some fruit. And anytime I run into him, asking how the guys were doing, how things were looking, just a lifelong wrestling fan. And like you said, I did have the privilege of also wrestling with his two sons, were teammates of mine. So like you say, got to know them guys well throughout my high school career as well. So
Yeah, again, a very big impact, and our thoughts and prayers and condolences out to the family. I know it's not like a recent passing by any stretch, but if we're gonna be here, we're gonna talk about Stewartville wrestling. I think it is necessary to make sure that we get that respect out to him and everything he's done to help the program and the community in general. Last thing before we head out, bingo Tuesday nights, Cars Bar and Grill. This is what an ad's going to look like on here. Bakken, you ready for this? Bingo Tuesday night, Cars Bar and Grill. They need workers. Get a hold of who, Heath?
You can get in touch with Corey DeYoung or Aaron Olson, Danny Sackett, or Tara King with the Booster Club. That's probably your go-to contacts for that. That's been the one fundraiser that we have going right now, being that we can't host tournaments at this point. So it's an important thing to keep going during these times.
Yeah, it's awesome. So get a hold of them. I know I see posts in the Facebook group about all the time. I know Natalie Hewitt's spurting some stuff there. Maybe she can get you some information. Maybe I can do a better job of getting that kind of information for the next episode, but I haven't ate all day and Heath's keeping me here in my seat. So I think we're going to sign off. You don't have anything else to say, do you, Heath?
I appreciate you stepping up and taking on this challenge. Just as another way for us to try and promote Stewartville wrestling. So appreciate that, having an alumni lead something like this.
Yeah, whatever. You owe me. We'll throw it in the back pocket for when I need to cash one out later, because Lord knows I'm going to need to cash one out later. But yeah, we'll probably be back next week. Like we said, Stewartville's in action Friday night, heading to Goodhue for a duel, and they host both Century and John Marshall on Saturday. Depending on where this gets posted, if you have other questions and things you want reached out or talked about on this podcast, you can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me on Twitter at gorilla_WC, 2 R's, 2 L's, don't mess it up. And otherwise you can just like text me or whatever. But that's all we got for today. Thanks for tuning in.